get one more support.
Hello, welcome to the THC Show. It's a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change, all to do with the THC issue, where we need some truth, some hope, and definitely some change. On the show today, we're going to have 8 out of 10 Glenn, as always, join us for the 420 session. We'll talk a little bit about the CSP, what's going on out of town, and what's going on here in Vancouver, and just some general updates about the whole situation here. The whole situation here has got me a little bit upset. I've been getting more and more upset every week for a long time. A whole another week has gone by. We have heard nothing from Health Canada yet as to whether or not they might give us a piece of paper with a signature on it so that we could be legitimate in what we're doing here and saving people's lives and helping the neighborhood during a public health emergency. But you know, just how much do we have to prove here? I mean, we have been demonstrating every day that we do what we do here at the CSP and the Healing Wave is a demonstration. We have been putting on daily demonstrations for over 2.5 years in this location, and for more than 3.5 years, or for more than 3 years, well, 3.5 years exactly actually, at our previous location of doing it twice a week or once a week for the first year, twice a week for the next 2.5 years. We've been demonstrating. That's what we're doing. This is a demonstration. We knew going into it that cannabis high-dose edibles was an answer for people to get off of the hard drugs, to get through withdrawal, and to replace the use of those drugs. I knew it. I had that personal experience. But we needed to demonstrate it. The government wasn't just going to believe us. Of course not. It's not in their best interest to do that, the way they've structured this so-called legalization and all the previous prohibitions going on for almost 100 years before that. They weren't going to just believe me and say, okay, yeah, we'll give you a piece of paper with a signature on it to go ahead and hand out high-dose edibles to people. So we just did it. We tried to get government approval ahead of time. I mean, it's not like we just did it. We did it first getting the support of the local area advocates for the oppressed people by the drug war, Vandu. Unanimous approval for an idea of just trying to make it as easy as possible to get high-dose edibles to people that needed them. That's the only idea here. Make it as easy as possible for people to access high-dose edibles that would use them to get off of the hard drugs and to replace the use of those drugs. That's the whole idea. So I took that idea to Vandu and got unanimous approval. I took their approval and support with me to City Council and presented it to them, and they wouldn't even talk to me about it. I also presented it to the Vancouver Police Board just to make sure that everybody was informed about what we were going to do here. And then we started our demonstration. We demonstrated for a full year, once a week, that hundreds of people would line up just to get a little care pack of high-dose edibles. We demonstrated during that year and the following 2.5 years of doing it twice a week that many of those people would testify that the cannabis high-dose edibles did what we thought it would do for them. Many, many people came and told us over the course of those years that what we had done was help them get off of the hard drugs. It was a successful demonstration. That demonstration came with some documentation, some data collection, some research, and that all led to Dr. M.J. Malloy of UBC writing papers about the effectiveness of cannabis as a replacement therapy and the safety of such. Because of that, City Council then got on board. They decided that they would support low barrier access to cannabis, high dose edibles to get people off of opioids and street drugs. They passed a motion to unanimously support that. But what did that mean? We went and asked them what it meant. We had a meeting with the city. It meant that if we took our program off the street and moved it into a storefront, that they would support that. That's what they said. So we did. We went about finding a storefront in an appropriate location, and we did. And we opened up just like we said we would to the city. They said they'd send city staff to assess what we were doing, that if we were properly meeting the needs of the neighborhood, that they would support us in that and provide that piece of paper with a signature. But city staff never came because city licensing beat them to it. And city licensing didn't care about the motion that city council had passed. All city licensing cared about was making sure that they towed the line with respect to the federal government's lead on the cannabis issue. So the councillor, Rebecca Bly, who was spearheading that motion that passed unanimously, had to tell me that they were going to need to wait with their piece of paper with a signature on it until we got one from Ottawa. So we applied to Ottawa. Well over 2 years ago now, we applied to Ottawa. 2 years ago. By that time, we had already been successfully demonstrating time and time and time again that cannabis was safe and effective in answering the real issues to do with this public health emergency. We were at Vandu 300 times handing out high-dose edibles over the course of 3.5 years. 300 times. Averaged about 300 care packs every time we went there. Never had a problem. We had a few people comment that they'd eaten too much and had a night of hanging onto a pole or couldn't get out of bed for a couple of days. But that was it. And that's to be expected if you've eaten too much high-dose edibles for what you're used to. But it's not death. It's not even injury. It's not anything of any serious consequence health-wise at all. It's simply a way to understand what your tolerances are and how much you do and don't want to eat. But certainly no problem big enough to have us stop doing what we're doing with 3.5 years, 300 times of giving out high-dose edibles to people and having so many of them report success to us. How much more do we have to demonstrate? We went from that into the storefront. We were in the storefront for 5.5 months before it finally push came to shove and Health Canada did not properly respond to our applications for licenses for us and our suppliers, but also an application for a temporary emergency exemption from the Cannabis Act. Because we were afraid that we would get evicted without it. And we were afraid that maybe we would get raided by the police without it. 5.5 months we operated this store. It was a wonderful thing. Everybody loved it. Apparently except Health Canada. But they never came to see it. What they hated about it was that we were providing cannabis cheaper than they were through their cartel's system of legalization. That's what they hated about it. It didn't matter to them that we're saving lives. It didn't matter to them that science was all behind us. None of that mattered to Health Canada. All that matters to Health Canada is that they don't allow for cannabis to be available in the marketplace that's A, cheaper than what they're doing, and B, higher doses of edibles than what they're able to do. We've now had the courts strike down that arbitrary decision to cap the potency on edibles at 10 lousy milligrams. 10 milligrams of edibles is about the right place to start if you've never tried it before. That's about where you start. Start there, move up a little bit, maybe take another 10 milligrams 45 minutes to an hour later, depending on how you feel. Find the right dose for yourself. But when most people find the right dose for themselves, it's not 10 milligrams. It's much more than that. People that are using it to try to get off opioids and get through withdrawal, well, they need hundreds of milligrams at a time. They're not going to get that in the 10 milligram maximum capped dose that you get from a government store that you're going to pay a whole bunch of money for, and it's going to be all wrapped in a whole bunch of chocolate and whatever, and now you got to eat all of that to try and get yourself 100 milligrams. It's not designed for those people at all. That doesn't work for them. So how much more do we have to prove? How much longer do we have to continue this demonstration before the government finally says, oh, okay, we'll give you a piece of paper with a signature on it, and you can keep doing what you're doing because, well, you haven't hurt anybody and you got a whole bunch of people, hundreds of them, that say you've helped them. How much more do we have to prove? We have dispensed high-dose edibles in the multiple tens of millions of milligrams over the course of this almost 6 years. Multiple tens of millions. Where is there a victim anywhere? Who's complaining about what we're doing except the people that want to limit the amount of edibles and they want to maintain an artificially high price for the cannabis? Those are the people that aren't happy about what we're doing. Everybody else loves what we're doing. This has been an absolutely bizarre 5.5 to 6 years. Bizarre. I would have never have guessed that it would take all of this time and still we wouldn't have that permission. I certainly would have guessed, rightfully so, that after all of this time, we would have an amazing track record of helping people and nobody harmed in the process. I would have guessed that. I would have predicted that. I knew that was going to be the case. That if people were allowed easy, low barrier access to high dose edibles, a lot of them were going to get helped in very profound ways as a result of that. And nobody was ever going to be hurt to any significant degree. I would have predicted that easily. But I wouldn't have predicted that it would have going to take all this time, that the government of Canada was absolutely so corrupt that they cannot properly do their job to serve the people, even during a public health emergency. They flap their gums about all the things they're going to do. They say they're giving out millions of dollars to address the issue. Well, we don't see any of that. We really don't see much help at all here. We see quite clearly that we are the ones that are really having a profound effect in this neighborhood with respect to the overdose crisis. We see it every day as we have conservatively 50 or 60 people every day come and tell us how much we're helping them and thank us so much for being here. Plead with us to not stop what we're doing no matter what. We can see the difference we're making here. Yet the government doesn't seem to care. In fact, the government doesn't even want to look at it. They've never sent anybody here to really check us out at all. I've never had anybody from Health Canada come on down here and have a conversation with us about what we're doing. It's not what they care about. They're not interested. In fact, they don't even want to know if we're actually saving lives here and making a difference. They'd prefer that we weren't, because they got their own agenda going on. Clear as can be. I said when we started this program that it was going to do one of two things. It was either going to result in the government allowing low barrier access to cannabis in all of its forms, in all of its potencies, or we were going to expose that the Canadian government is corrupt. So far, in almost 6 years of this ongoing daily demonstration, all we've managed to prove is that the government of Canada is extremely corrupt. It's really disheartening. We have yet to get low barrier access, although we provide it here every day. And it's being provided in some other places as well. I wouldn't say that we're being tolerated, because now we're before the courts. The lack of permission from Health Canada, has resulted in the VPD brass deciding to just do their job and enforce Canada's laws against providing cannabis without a license without a cartel permission slip. So they raided us. They raided us 2 years ago, 2 years and 5 months ago too. No, just 2 years ago, sorry. It was 2 years ago this November 1st that we moved into the RV. Out of the store because no license, and a landlord who'd been threatened by the licensing department felt he had no choice but to try and evict us, and he did. 2 weeks after that, we got raided by the VPD. It wasn't the brass this time deciding that, there's people providing cannabis and they should stop that. This was just the local anti-vending unit that stumbled across our RV covered in signage about what we were doing with low barrier access and, obvious cannabis visible through the windows. And they took it all. They just swooped in and took it all. No charges, no nothing, but they took it all. Over a year and a half went by of being here, serving the population of this neighborhood with low barrier access to cannabis, both low cost and no cost, for over a year and a half. Every day, 8 hours a day, 1 block away from the police station, without any interference, until that fateful day of May 11th, when the VPD surrounded us, seized our vehicle, stole the medicine that we had for this neighborhood, charged myself and 2 of my colleagues with trafficking against the Cannabis Act. After a 6-month investigation to see whether or not we were doing that. What a waste of money, and what a horrible thing to do. If they had really done an investigation, they would have figured it out. That what we're doing here is exactly what is necessary to address this public health crisis. We stepped up, took risks, decided to do what needed to be done, and did it. And for that, we are now before the courts, where they're going to think about whether or not they should punish us because we didn't obey. It's disgusting. 4:19, probably right about the right time. You got a minute to roll them and I'll wrap it up. But this demonstration is ongoing every single day, 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. We are proving every day that this is what is necessary to save the lives of these poor people that have been condemned to a life of addiction and poverty by a system that makes it so. We won't stop, we can't stop. We know we have a moral obligation to help these people, and we would not stop just because the government is corrupt. But they might do their best to stop us, and we'll see about that. We're going to be back in court on the 16th of November. Next week. A week from tomorrow. To set a date for a pre-trial conference. Well, that sounds like where it should all end, is in front of a judge with the Crown trying to explain why they think that we should be punished for being good citizens. We'll see. In any case, it's 4:20, so you know what that means? It means it's time for the sacred herb, for the inhalation of the magical vapors, and for Glenn Wells to come on in and join me for the 420 session. How are you doing, Glenn?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Long time no see.
Oh, yeah, it must have been about a week.
Yeah, maybe not even. I was here last Wednesday, too.
I know. But typically it's a week.
Technically, yeah.
Typically, because you live way out in the boondocks.
Oh, I live out in where it's nice and quiet, yeah.
So happy 420.
Happy 420.
Yeah.
Happy 420, everybody.
Light them if you got them.
Yeah, spark them when you got them.
If you don't, what's wrong with you?
Happy 420, Douglas. So, I know, eh? Have you been watching the news?
Well, I watch some things. What's on
Did
your
you hear
mind?
they're spending $14 million a day here on the downtown east side?
14 million now.
Yeah, well, it's $5 billion a year. 14 million a day down here, and they still have people living in tents and living in alleyways and stuff like that. So they just had some sort of.
Do they give a breakdown of where any of that money is going?
Yeah, you have to look on Global, but they said downtown East Side, DTE.
Yeah, but is it to police?
Social programs.
So it's not the police then?
No.
So that's not including policing costs?
No,
These are
so
social programs.
Social.
Because,
Not making a difference.
excuse me, it was 1 million. That's what they said. It was $1 million a day being pumped into this neighborhood. Now that was before the pandemic, so that's like, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. That's what they were saying was it's $1 million a day. So the new numbers are that it's $14 million a day.
Now it's $45 billion a year.
Well, they're not giving us any of it.
No, and they're not preventing. They're helping you prevent the deaths that they want to prevent with this money. That's what the liberals are saying now. They're saying, "Hey, where's all this money going?
Where's it going? Who's getting it?
Why people are living on tents? And why do we have SROs that have bugs and mice and
$14 million a day. I mean, you could certainly house everybody that's here in a tent and then some in fancy housing.
There's 5 companies that do all the housing for the SROs down here, and they're just raking it in.
Atira is one of them, and I know that they're an unethical money-making group. Yeah. Sorry, Atira, but prove me wrong, right?
Yep. They had Atira on there, and the lady asked if she would mind telling her what her salary was. She goes, "No, that's none of your business." Right? But yeah, they did talk to me about it.
There's a lot of people making a lot of money off of what's going on down here, but the money's not making it to the people that actually need it, or in any way that's reasonable for them.
I may be wrong.
I mean, they do get some services here. Don't get me wrong. There are long lineups for food at different places. Maybe they're using government grants for that. Probably they are. There's food. There's clothing giveaways. There's some things like that.
Yeah.
As for the opioid crisis itself, money's going into the pockets of pharmaceutical companies to buy a bunch of safe opioids for people, to not get them off the opioids, but get them onto ones that are being provided by the pharmaceutical companies at taxpayer expense. Yeah, that's not a solution. That doesn't solve much of anything.
Their addiction.
It solves a few little things, but it isn't what we need here. What we need is a way to get these people off of these drugs and motivation to do that. Yeah. And high dose edibles does exactly that. That's what they need. They need a high dose edible store on every street corner.
Yeah.
For every hard drug dealer that's out there standing on a street corner or working out of their tent, they need to have a high dose edible store, a low barrier access cannabis store. And I'll bet you more and more people would be bypassing the drug dealer on the street and walking into that store and getting something that's going to put them on a way better path and give them a level of health and wellness that they're certainly not getting on the street here. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. It's amazing.
We just keep pounding away.
There's no more being scared of withdrawals because the high dose edible carries you right through that. You don't get the pains in the bodies and stuff like that, or the cold sweats or anything. It seems to carry you right through.
I met a number of people who are afraid of the high dose edibles. That they tried it, they ate too much, it wasn't fun, and then they don't want to do that again. They're afraid of that.
Yep.
And they're afraid to go through withdrawal, so they're stuck.
Yeah, and that's what happened is like when they tried to quit opioids the first time, they went through the bad withdrawals, and now they're scared of it. Some people who have eaten too much and greened out are now scared of the same thing, right?
I know, and those people are stuck. They don't think that they can use the same way that so many other people are using to get off it, which is high dose edibles, and they don't want to go through it themselves because they've tried it and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's terrible what's
going
on here.
There will always be those people who can't get through it, right? There will be reason for treatment centers and stuff like that.
For sure. Yeah. There's several different paths to the top of the mountain. We think we've got the best one with the high dose edibles.
Yeah, it helps.
But there's several different paths to the top of the mountain here. So there's a survey that's going on. You've got until November 27th to fill this out. I highly recommend you do, even though it's
November 21st.
November 21st.
Yeah.
So we don't have too much time now. We got a dozen days, 2 weeks maybe. Get that done. Get your survey answers in there as best you can. And let's let the government know that the medical system is not being properly serviced, that the cost of cannabis is way out of reach for most people, that there's no reason for all of the regulations and restrictions and the fees that are keeping so many farmers out of providing cannabis to the marketplace. Let them know about all these things. That's really important.
Click on the link, scroll down, you'll see the words online questionnaire. Click that. That will take you to the questionnaire. It's about 5 to 7 minutes, depends. You have 5,000 characters per answer, right? So, and yes, I was putting in, if we can make our own wine and beer, we need to be able to grow our own pot and grow it in the. This is how do we curve the market, the illegal market? Do what we were doing before, and then there will be no reason to have a dealer, right?
And give us stores that people can walk into and get high dose edibles that are properly labeled, that have standardized dosages and all the rest of that.
Smell it and
the weed is there, and the way it should be. Government, get out of the way here. I mean, you're not helping. And if you're not helping, then get the hell out of the way, for sure. This is not what this is supposed to be here going on in Canada. We're supposed to be a free country here. Does that mean anything to anybody? Does anybody understand what that means? That the people of Canada are supposed to be free with public servants? It's not the way it is. It's just the way we think it's supposed to be. But we're actually subjects of a queen on some flippin' island over there.
King now.
King now. The queen is dead. The queen is dead. They both should be off and gone. Off with their heads. Holy smokes. They've been raping us for so long and telling us they're in charge because their blood is a different color or whatever it is. I don't buy any of it, and I don't like what they do here. They're the ones behind the cannabis prohibition for all this time. And they should be ousted because of it. And we should be ashamed of ourselves as a government, as governments in Canada, for allowing this to happen and all the harm that's been happening to free Canadian citizens because of the attempt to prohibit cannabis. It's totally disgusting. So on Friday is Remembrance Day. November 11th.
Yep.
Sorry, you can't see my poppy.
Mine's on my jacket.
We wear the poppy on Remembrance Day. The poppy. You know what the poppy is? The poppy is the source of opium.
Yeah, it sure is.
Opioids. Poppies are the source of that. We wear them to honor the veterans who got us freedom.
Yep.
No, they didn't. They got us freedom to obey corrupt governments who tell us we can't have the poppies. You can have a fake poppy and wear it here, but don't try to grow one in your garden.
No, you can't grow them.
It's disgusting.
Well, I think you can grow them. You just can't take the liquid or something.
Well, it depends what type you're growing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
It's stupid as hell.
You
and weed is even more stupid. What are you going to say?
But you always ask people to write a letter. Well, I had somebody reach out to me and said that she was going to be writing a letter for you. Wanted to make sure that she had it right. I said it was the CSP, right? The Cannabis Substitution Project or Program.
Program now.
Program, yes. And she was going to be writing a letter on behalf of you guys. So,
nice. Please do that sort of thing. I mean, every one of those can be extremely powerful.
I told her I would let you know because you always say that. You never know if anybody's actually doing it, and it's nice to know when people are actually.
It is nice to know that some people are doing that.
Say, hey, we're going to write a letter.
I don't know how many people have written letters and sent them in and didn't tell us about it. They just did that. Thank you so much for doing that. Anybody who did, I hope a lot of people do that. This is really, really important stuff here. This is at the very core of what freedom is supposed to be all about.
Yeah.
Our forefathers were willing to put on flak jackets and carry guns into battle. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Can you imagine being a young person?
I went to jail for this.
You're on your way, to some foreign land. There, you got your gun and your flak jacket. And can you imagine what you'd be thinking about?
Well, death.
You're thinking, holy smokes, there's going to be bombs blowing up around me and shrapnel and people shooting. And yet away they went. Yeah. Away they went. Boatload after boatload of good Canadians that went to secure our freedoms in the face of what was being sold as the threat to our free way of life here. And they fought for that. And many of them died for that. All of them were willing to die for that, They all went over there.
They were told to go and die for
understanding that there's some of that,
so there was some of that
too. I believe there's some proud soldiers who really believe in what they're doing, and I'm going to go with those. Those are the ones who I honor.
My great uncle was one of them, second in command in World War II, the Canadian Forces. So he was second in command. So
we've become very cynical of the leadership and the political interference with respect to these wars and what they're really all about, with the billionaires fighting over property and oil rights and the rest of all of that stuff. But as far as the common man who decided that he was going to brave it out and go over there and do that, I mean, holy smokes, what a sacrifice, to be able to willing to do that. And so that was a long time ago. That was before my lifetime. Both of those two big world wars happened before I was born. Since then, there's just been, other wars, but, nothing like that. And we remember this every November 11th at 11 after 11. And what we're supposed to remember is, let's not forget. I mean, that's what they say all the time. Let's not forget, lest we forget. But, there's another part of that they don't really say a lot. And I think it's the most important part. What the heck is it you're supposed to remember? That people shot each other? No. You're supposed to remember that they went willing to die for the freedoms of the generations that followed, which is us.
Yeah.
Lest we forget. And don't ever forget that was to be... that those sacrifices were for us, for me and my kids and the generations to come. They were willing to go and take bullets for freedom. So let's not forget that they died for our freedom and that they were willing to die for our freedom. And let's respect that. And let's respect that not just by going out and standing by a cenotaph with a poppy on and thinking for a minute about the sacrifice of these people. Let's carry it through all of our lives and honor their efforts by not allowing us to not be free. And this plant is the big example of us not being free. There is no better example. It's a flippin' plant. It's a medicinal herb. It even has the inability to kill anybody by overdose, which isn't shared by all of its other plant cousins and brothers and sisters. Like just about every plant on the planet you can die of an overdose from. All the fruits and vegetables, all your house plants, all of those plants, you can die if you eat too much. But this one, you can't, because we're made out of this plant. We have a relationship with this plant that goes back far before we had vertebrates. Long before we had developed spines, we were in a relationship of consumption with this particular plant, as is evidenced by the endocannabinoid system that mimics the cannabinoids on these plants and is shared by all of the vertebrates on the planet and some non-vertebrates. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This plant for thousands of years, as far back as we can find, it's been found, wrapped up with pharaohs in their tombs, and it goes back thousands and thousands of years in the history of humankind. It was the economy for cultures in humankind for long periods of time. This plant, this medicinal herb, through numerous cultures around the globe, one of the main features of their medicine, this plant is a plant that coming up on 100 years ago in another 2 months. In January, it'll be 100 years since the Canadian government made it illegal.
Because it's 100 years coming up. I think that's why that link is out there. And
no,
I don't. Want to see the views change?
No, I don't. I think that they're just trying to continue the manipulation and monopolization of this plant and this industry. I don't think that they have the right intentions at all. I haven't heard a government person talk about it for even a minute. About it's been 100 years of drug prohibition and look where we're at. That's what they should be doing.
We haven't heard that at all.
Haven't heard that at all. I don't think they're even thinking about it. But it's been 100 years coming up in January since the Canadian government did one of the most stupid and one of the most hurtful things that they've ever done. It has resulted in our own little 100-year-long Holocaust here of trying to annihilate access to a plant and all of those people who would try to do that. The amount of people that have been incarcerated, the amount of people that have been fined, given criminal records, the amount of people that have just lived their life scared of those things but never actually encountered it, but had to, do all the things. I mean, it is just mind-boggling. It's incalculable how much actual damage has been done, how much money has been spent, how many lives have been ruined. It's incalculable.
Yes, I know.
Just in this country alone. Not to mention, our brothers and sisters to the south. with 10 times the population and more than that times the incarceration rate and the lifetime sentences for 3 strikes you're out. Oh man,
yeah. Actually, you know, we were saying that Biden's going to forgive the federal charges. There is a catch to that. What it is if you were charged the 3rd time for a cannabis thing, that 3rd strike is a federal charge. So that's the ones that he would be releasing. So
you mean there is actually something good can come out of it?
If you had the 3rd charge and it was like they have a 3-strike law, right? You had 3 strikes, you're out, right? Yeah. If your 3rd one happened to be a cannabis one, then they will rescind that and you will be released.
Wow.
Right? Yes.
And what are they going to do for all those people that just served out their time on that and then got released? You know, any compensation for those people? Because if it's wrong then it was wrong then.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's a lot of people asking for compensation.
It should be,
yeah,
and they deserve it. And
that's
the numbers are massive.
Maybe that's why they don't want to do it.
I'm sure,
right? Because it'll cost them lots of money, right?
Well, yeah, and some of them should go to jail for what they did.
Yeah.
Like, you know, why don't we have a big investigation? I'll tell you why. Because all these people are in on it. All these agencies that would do the investigation, they all have a lot to lose. So nobody wants to investigate how this all happened.
Yeah,
but I'll bet you there's a trail of letters and emails and memos and stuff about, where they knew. Don't tell me they didn't know. If they didn't know, they should have known.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, they
like, holy smokes. It doesn't take much to know when you really want to look at it from an unbiased point of view. Is it or isn't it medicine? Well, it's an anti-inflammatory. It does seem to help people sleep, and I guess that would have to be medicine, you know.
And anti-nauseant.
And how harmful is it? Well, it's never actually killed anybody. We don't even have any reports of any brown lung or anything else going on. So no, it's not actually harmful for anybody. So they took something that wasn't harmful for people, that was medicine, in fact, extremely beneficial medicine that can't be duplicated in synthetic medicine. They took that away, penalized people for having it to huge amounts. The damage is immense. It's massive.
But
it's time to stop it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just so many people making so much money. They don't care that people are dying and having their lives ruined and all the rest. And it doesn't take much to ruin a life here now.
Because they're up there and we're down here. They don't. Yeah.
There's people out here on the street. I've met them. They've talked to me. They've told me their stories. There's people out here homeless, living in tents on the streets here, who are there because of a cannabis conviction.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what happened to them.
Oh,
I've had lots of people tell me that.
Wow.
That they got busted. They spent some time in jail. They lost their job. They lost their housing. They lost their families.
Yeah.
And they end up here.
Because of cannabis.
Because of cannabis charges.
Wow.
And there's so many of them. What's going on here in Vancouver with thousands of people out homeless, living on the sidewalks and in tents, is being repeated all over the place. It's going on in LA, it's going on in Oregon, it's going on all over the place.
Yeah.
All driven by drug prohibition. All driven by policies that harm people for no good reason except that they're protecting the interests of the other pharmaceutical companies or the alcohol companies or the tobacco companies or the gasoline companies, and the list goes on, and that's the problem. Everybody benefits from this prohibition except the people. We all suffer. It costs us all massively. The damage is incalculable, and a whole bunch of people are profiting off it. The banks, the insurance companies, the media, the police, the jails, on and on and on. It has gone for so long. 100 years of the major players figuring out how it is that they can make money on this gravy train of attempted drug prohibition, and especially cannabis. And they've all figured it out, and they're all making buck.
Yeah.
And so they don't want it to end. And that's who we're fighting, and that's what this is all about, is that we have this amazing story to tell.
Yeah.
This plant has been lied about.
Oh, yeah.
They were wrong on purpose. And they did it to make money off of you and me. Yeah. And they made a shit ton of it.
Oh, yeah.
This is a huge crime against humanity. Yet very few are telling the story. It's not a big deal because the media doesn't want it to be a big deal, because the corporations that own the media doesn't want it to be a big deal, because they all want to just keep making money the way they were. So Canada structured a legalization that allowed for all those groups to make money that were making money on prohibition to keep making money on prohibition. So we got all that going on. You know, there's still this whole illegal industry of cannabis going on in Canada. All these people growing, all these people selling. I mean, we had a Halloween event recently where we had vendors in the parks. There's vendors in the parks every Saturday.
Yeah.
They're popping up all over the place. There's still illegal companies making edibles and selling weed online. Tons and tons and tons of it all still going on, and they're still all illegal. And the government and the corporate machinery that's all designed to make money off of that is still all making money off of that. While right beside it, we've got so-called legalization, where you can go ahead and buy it off of us. You know, the prices are a little higher. The weed is suspect. We're not the right people to take your money, but. You know, what do you want to do? You want to go buy off of somebody who's illegal and take all of those risks, or do you want to have a store?
No risk.
This is so flippin' wrong.
Yeah.
So wrong.
There's no risk.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Well, there are risks on the underground.
Every time you say government store and their weed, it always rings in my head that famous line from Cheech and Chong. They're in one of the albums. You hear they're in there. I think it's Sister Mary Elephant, and they're in class, and one of the guys says, "That shit wouldn't get a fly high." You know, every time somebody says government store, that line goes through my head. That shit wouldn't get a fly high. Yeah. That's how I first got it brought on to Cheech and Chong was albums.
Us too. Oh, us too.
Never seen the movies or anything. We were listening to them and albums. And
the movies came much later.
Oh, yeah.
We don't sit around and smoke weed and listen to those albums. Man.
One of the ones was there was a bunch of army guys, and you hear this, "We need some volunteers up here on the hill."
I smoked the whole day, now you get a buzz.
We need volunteers, and it's all quiet, right? And you hear, they got a bunch of marijuana plants up on the hill here. And then you hear a stampede of guys going to volunteer, right? Oh, that's great. Yeah, I remember the album so much. Yeah,
I don't know what it's going to take to get this finally settled. I don't know how long it's going to take.
Oh, gosh. We're still going to fight. We're not giving up. We're not giving up.
The government's not going to give us our license anytime quickly by the looks of it.
I called for mine today. We're still processing,
Yeah,
sir.
still processing.
Yeah, I know.
or as Mr. Benoit Seguin, you maybe write that name down. You can contact him at the Special Licensing and Exemptions Division of Health Canada, Mr. Benoit Seguin. As he said to me a few times over the last couple of years while we've waited for his permission, rest assured, Mr. Magnuson, our team is working diligently on your file every day since we got it. Oh my God. Working diligently on our file every day since they got it. Over 2 years ago they got this application, and his team has been working on it every day since. It's really tough, apparently. It's very difficult. Because you know what their mission is? Their mission is to try to figure out how to say no to that application. Yeah. And we purposely put that application together so that nobody could ever say no to that.
Yeah, and my 11-page response is pretty much sent that they can't say no, but he said they have 6 months to respond, so
that's how long they're going to take.
We're waiting for 6 months. Yeah, I guess that's what they're
not going to get back to you early. It's not like it's medicine and you need it.
Oh, yeah, of course it's medicine and I need it, you bastard. How'd you like that? Is that what I gave you? That's what
let's smoke what you gave me.
I don't know.
This is still one of my own concoctions here.
That's that purple plant. We don't know what it was, but man, is it ever smooth.
All right.
It's very nice. Yes.
Let's try that then.
Try it out. Somebody's asking, is all the chat in the U.S.? No, there's some Canadian chat there too. Well, we just got to keep going. We're not giving up, right?
Oh, hell no. That's my strategy.
Yeah, we got enough weed to keep us going.
If you don't give up, then you can't lose.
Right? We got enough weed to keep us going, right?
Yeah, there's no shortage of weed.
No, we can just grow some more. It's real cheap.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's smooth. That's nice.
That's nice. Yeah. And I don't know what it was. It's like, you get a seed in a bag, you put it in a pill jar, you put it in a box, you forget about it for a few years. Oh, here, let's plant this seed and see what you get. And that's what I got.
Nice.
Look at it, it's nice and clean. Yeah,
it's nice. Very nice.
Wow, eh?
Yeah,
I was very surprised. 94 days with no rain, found a good seed. That was a good year.
Is that how long we went? 94 days without rain?
94 days. Now we're going to do another 10. But we just got a bunch of rain, so...
We did?
Yes. So it's
Should
just going to be cold at nights, really cold at nights, and then sunny
We're
during
going
the
to
day.
get snow then.
No.
That's what's going to happen.
No, it's good. There's the high pressure system and sunshine.
Boy, did it snow here last night.
+8. I know, not even Mission. And I live up on the mountain.
Which
we
is
had no
weird,
snow.
you know?
Yeah.
But I was looking at the mountains, the day before yesterday,
Yeah.
seeing how far down the snow is there,
well,
going, oh
see,
boy,
it's
it's
snow
coming
there.
real soon
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
And then by 10 o'clock last night, it was not a blizzard, but really big flakes, a whole bunch of
I
them.
heard Victoria got
The
it.
cars were all covered. It was sticking to the roads.
Yeah.
It was hard for my windshield wipers to keep up.
Wow.
It was like, wow,
Wow.
This is crazy. I bet if this keeps up all night, I'm going to wake up in the morning to a dumping. But nothing.
No.
You know, very little. You can still see some snow on some
Yeah,
of the
my
cars.
friend said they had to scrape off their windows. They're going, we scrape off your windows. What the hell, man? We just got my car today.
Well, I'd seen a car go by 2 days before that, completely covered in snow. I don't know where it came from.
Went
but,
up top, probably.
it's coming anyway. We're gonna, and I heard the Farmer's Almanac says we're gonna have a long, cold winter.
That's what it says.
Is that accurate most of the time? That almanac?
They swear by it. Yeah, it's been around for a long time. I don't know.
I don't know if it's. I don't know how
probably
accurate it
pretty
is. I hear, as far as I understand, it's fairly accurate. I don't think
Fairly,
it's
I would go.
completely accurate.
I would go fairly accurate. Yeah. Well,
Wonder when we're going to be able to.
we've got
do the
10 days
forecast
of
again.
cold and sun right now, so
And it is cold here,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
that's
anyway.
okay. It's November. It's supposed to be.
And cold again for the people who have to line up outside at the RV. We have a tent that we put up when it rains to try to keep people a little bit protected from the weather. But when it's cold like this, there's no protection.
No.
So we still have a fair lineup to start the day every morning. People that that they're there for how we don't know how
Yeah.
long, But when we go out and start putting our stuff in the RV to start our day, there's a dozen people or so standing there, and it's getting colder and colder. And now it looks like the government is going to force these poor people to go through another winter
Yeah.
of not having a store to walk into where they can get warm for a few minutes and get what they need with some dignity, like as if they're regular human beings.
Wow.
The only access point that we're aware of now here is us,
Yeah.
on this downtown east side, and it's an RV that people have to go to the window on the outside in the freezing conditions and in the wet conditions. It's sad.
It's sad. It is.
Someday, some way, maybe there will be a proper inquiry where we will look into who it was that
Look how fast they
maintained
did
these
the
things.
inquiry on the convoy or in Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
Within a year or two.
Yeah, because those people in Ottawa, really had some of their hearing affected. So because of that, they had to get right on it, because, a few people in Ottawa who couldn't sleep because of horns honking, they're important. They're important.
Yeah.
Not like the people here who, the thousands of them that were just ordinary people that had something happen in their lives and they ended up homeless and poor and down here. And they're dying at an alarming rate, but they're dead while they're alive here, because the people, if you come down here, you'll see that the people that are here are already basically dead.
Yeah.
They've got no life in their eyes. They shuffle around. They're bent over. They're hunched like the
Like a zombie.
and they're like zombies here.
Yeah.
They sit in corners and burn tinfoil and inhale it, or they start twitch it out and doing all sorts of crazy things here. But that doesn't matter. That's not important enough to have some sort of an inquiry into how would this happen, and a real inquiry that would look into the drug prohibition aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Why are these poor people who suffer with trauma ending up down here dealing with their trauma by purchasing products off of people in laneways and behind corners and stuff with the, why are they there? Why is that happening? Why can't they get what they need, in some reasonable, dignified way? Why do we have a society that allows for this?
Mm-hmm.
And when you realize that there's all these people profiting, if there's $14 million a day coming in here to deal with this, that's $14 million that's going into the pockets of a bunch of people who don't live here, that are
Living a better
saying
life.
that they're here to help in some way, providing something or other. But that money's all going into their bank accounts and paying their mortgages and their rent. Well, the people that they're supposed to be helping with all that money don't have a mortgage or a rent to pay because they don't have a place to live.
And because they got a cannabis charge.
And in many cases, because they got a cannabis charge that just started all off.
Yeah.
Cannabis illegalization is the gateway to hard drug use, to poverty and homelessness. The attempt to prohibit cannabis is at the root of so much of what's not right in our society
You
here.
get the doctors to give you the medicine to get hooked, but then when you're hooked, they look down on you and you end up in a friggin' alleyway, right? It's vicious.
Just insane because this whole thing is about greed and corruption. It's not about truth, honesty, and humanity and compassion. This is not about governments who are paid to look after the people that really need it the most and in a humane, compassionate way on behalf of everybody else. That's what we want out of our government. This is a government that is doing the bidding of the corporate elite that want to prey on us and exploit us and monopolize the things that they can that we need all of the time. And no better example than the cannabis issue. This is the one glaring, crazy example that makes zero sense. As an activist, when I first started getting into it, and I started looking at all the different facets of it, I just kept coming up with the same thought. This makes no sense.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it's not supposed to make any sense. This is a logic-free area, this prohibition. This is only about making serious money, not just cents.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make pennies. It makes zillions of dollars globally for the people that are controlling the drug trade and controlling which drugs are or are not illegal. It's all a big bloody game here. You telling me that the government is okay to freely be behind the distribution of whiskey and tequila and alcohol and all of that stuff and profit off of it? And profit off of, through high taxation, the sale of a commercial tobacco product that is completely adulterated with all kinds of carcinogenic poisons that's killing millions of humans every 12 months on this planet, and that's all okay? And those are legal, and you can stand there in front of a cop and smoke that shit and drink that shit, and you're all good to go. But don't be smoking this. Don't be smoking this plant here because why? Well, because it's illegal. But that stuff's killing somebody. This stuff's killing nobody. What's going on? Don't be trying to make sense out of anything. You know, this ain't about logic here. This is about whether or not you are going to obey or not. Period. Period. This is a test. This is a test. And we're going to find out who's going to obey and who's not. It doesn't matter that it's ludicrous what we're asking you to do. You either obey or you don't obey. And if you don't obey, well, then you're a bad person and we're going to punish you harshly.
Yeah.
You know, that makes no sense.
No.
Yeah, just like, you know, like you said, there's people, 3 strikes you're out for marijuana.
Yeah.
And 3 strikes you're out meant like a minimum 10-year sentence, but in many cases 15, 25, and life sentences.
Yeah.
So how much harm is that to a human being to put him in a cage for 10 to life?
Yeah.
And how much harm was actually going to come to that person by inhaling the smoke, the burning vapors of the plant material, or even eating it, or whatever it is you were going to do with it? How much can you hurt yourself with cannabis that the government has to hurt you so badly to keep you from hurting yourself? Like, it makes no sense.
It doesn't.
Because it's not logical. It's not about making sense. It's about making money, and that's what makes it so damn bad.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so bloody horrible. This isn't ignorance. This isn't just a government that's inept and doesn't know what to do about this bad situation of people getting addicted to drugs because their doctors put them on them, and then they end up homeless and all the rest of it. They just don't know what to do. They try to do things, but they're just wrong. This is not about ineptness. This is about a structured, corrupt society here that is benefiting the financial parasites that have gotten control of our governments and our society here, and they're subjecting us to all of this because they don't give a shit about us.
Nope.
They just want to make money.
Exactly.
So everybody pay in your taxes. Governments give out those taxes. How much? $14 million a day, say, for this neighborhood. And who gets that money? Well, I'll bet you most of it is corporations.
Mm-hmm.
It's not mom and pop that are taking that money, that $14 million, because they're down here trying to help people. Those people, and there are those people, there are many good people that are down here in this neighborhood devoting their time to trying to help out. And they're not getting any government funding. That's not where the money's going. We're not getting any government funding. Yeah. That money is going to corporations that are providing safe supply and needles and all these other things. And they're all corporate. And the corporations are taking our tax dollars to maintain a situation down here that is profiting them, killing off people they don't care about, but we care about, and you should care about.
That's what it is. They don't care about them. There's not
Doesn't factor in
to make any money off them.
No, it doesn't factor in.
Yeah.
When it's corporatized. Now, not all corporations are bad, and corporations don't have to be bad. You're not going away or anything. I'll talk to you in a little while. I'm just on a rant here. I gotta keep going. But it's the corporatization of things.
Yep.
It's what happens when your motives are all about profits. That people don't factor in. Everybody's just a number. They are X amount of dollars and cents, and that's what it all is. And when they're making decisions about how to do things, it's all about maximizing profits.
Yep.
And so what happens out of that is you get a very cold, structured corporate environment where it's almost impossible to get any justice or anything. And the top echelons are all insulated from anything to do with the bottom echelons that are being affected. All these different things that happen when it's corporatized. And you see it in many different stores, but also many different industries. And unfortunately, including our governments and our policing. And that corporatization, some people call it militarization, it's sort of a similar sort of a thing. It's like the art of war is about the art of business, and they are quite intertwined there. But that's where we're at, is we've got these corporate structures that are so powerful, that are so influential, because they're really behind the main ownership of everything that is, from energy companies to media companies. They're all owned by these
big corporations,
big groups that help them with their financing.
Yeah.
So anyway, what do? I don't know. You write a letter to a health minister and say we want low barrier access to
Or you
cannabis.
do that online survey. Just put it in the comments again for Health Canada. Go out and do that.
You do all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
You
got till November 21st.
You vote with your dollars. You vote with your feet. You make commentary wherever you can, wherever it's necessary. You don't put up with the bullshit that's going on here. Like, oh my God, you have to, you can't get weed from the guy you used to get it from. You have to go to a government store where you don't even like their weed, and it's more expensive than the guy you used to get it off of, but you just can't get,
I know.
Makes no sense. Buddy was growing some good weed there. You never had a problem with it. The government is not protecting you by not letting you buy it off of him anymore. By forcing you to buy it off of these other people. Who, do we trust them? Should you trust them? Well, the government says, hell yeah, this is a safe supply. That's why we're doing this. Marijuana is dangerous, so if we're going to sell it to you, it's got to be safe, so we're making it safe.
It's always been safe.
And their weed is it's the first time we've ever had recalls. All these other things there that are going on. It's like
stuff that's
do you trust the government? Should we trust the government? Are you wrong to not trust the government? No.
Stuff that's got a date on it from last year in a plastic bag.
That powderizes when you touch it and smells kind of And I don't want to just knock government weed. I'm sure there's some good stuff going on, and they're going to get good, aren't they? That's what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But this whole structure is way out of whack, and they got to stop doing this, because we don't need you to make it safe for us. We don't need the government to make sure that the growers are growing it safe, because people know whether or not cannabis is safe. And if anybody's trying to retail cannabis that isn't good, well, they're going to be found out pretty quick. I mean, the marketplace decides these things fast, and there's no real harm done. So until there's real harm done, I don't want real tax dollars spent. But it's all just a farce. It's a big facade. It's just giving lip service to a group of people that they despise, that they think they can make money off it because they can. And we think it's reasonable. We think we're in a real world where there's actual human beings with consciences and souls that are making these decisions, and they're just wrong or misled or something like that. And it's not. It's insidious. It's like they really don't give a shit. What they care about is not what we want them or need them to care about.
They think that we're a bunch of criminals.
So we've been charged, as you know.
Yep.
We were charged on May 11th there, myself and George and Andrew.
Yep.
And we've had 6 court appearances now. where I don't get to speak. It's me that's been charged, but I don't get to say anything. I've forced it a couple of times and been politely told that you're not supposed to say anything.
You'll get your time.
You'll get your time maybe eventually if we set enough dates. Then eventually you'll get some time and you'll get to say something. In the meantime, a bunch of people are making money every time we go there, and the whole thing is ridiculous to say the least. And if I could have just spoke to anybody originally, probably we could have had them understand what we're doing here, that we're not criminals, and everybody here deserves some sort of a commendation from the government, not any punishment of any sort. That's clear as a bell, and everybody around here knows that, and that'll all come out in court if we have to go there. But we shouldn't have to go there. That's the thing of it. And so now
sometimes we have to go through the wheels to change the laws, right?
So finally, there was a little discussion between our lawyer and the Crown.
Yeah.
And then they said they thought that there could maybe be a resolution rather than a trial.
Yeah.
And then their resolution was 6 months incarceration for the three of us, and we cease all operations to do what we're doing down here.
Oh wow.
Well, that ain't flying.
No.
So, but where does this come from? I mean, is Mr. Benoit Seguin involved in this in some way? I don't know. I mean, did they consult with Health Canada at all about who we are and our application that's been before them, and all the conversations we've had and all the letters I've written to all these people for these last few years? Is that part of their investigation at all? Do they look into any of that stuff? I don't really know. I'll be bringing all that stuff to court. But for them to double down like that and say that their resolution is incarceration and we must stop what we're doing?
No.
Like, where does that come from? I mean, is that coming from Ottawa? This is the federal Crown. We'll find out. We'll find out. As we move forward here, we will find out. On November 16th, coming up, a week
Next
from
Wednesday,
tomorrow, a week from Wednesday. We'll be back at 222 Main Street at 9:30 in the morning is when the court starts. We're always there at 9 o'clock. If you're coming down to support, that'd be great. We'll support you in doing that with a little session out front like we always do. Have a little wake and bake before court. And then this time, they're supposed to be setting an actual date for a pretrial conference.
Yes.
You believe that when you see it, because lots of other things can happen. Like one of the lawyers might not show up again, or who
Everybody's
knows?
Got to be there on Wednesday this time, do they?
I guess I think if the lawyers are there, then
that's okay.
The others don't have to be.
Yeah.
But the lawyers didn't show up either.
No, not even yours.
So, not even mine. But,
not even yours. So,
well, I mean, he was contacting me. To be fair, and I was able to set the new date without him, and that so that was fine. The others weren't handled so well because not only were not their lawyers there, but they weren't there either.
Yeah, and they were told they had to show up there to be a bench warrant next time or something.
They got to be there.
Yeah.
So
whatever. We'll see next Wednesday.
It's all just so ridiculous, isn't it? I need another puff.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. I'm very surprised at that. Yeah.
A big shout out to the Candy Bar.
Yes.
For a really nice donation. Just got that today. I picked that up at the post office.
Oh, that's really
That's going to help the CSP out a lot. A shout out to Gorilla Ganja as well.
And the Candy Bar.
Always coming
Facebook,
through. Mary's been helping us again with such things. John Murray brought us another load of muffins and cookies.
Nice.
Michael the Cookie Monster is also keeping us in stock of his real healthy infused cookies there that do so much good that people appreciate so much down here. Thanks to everybody that helps us out. It's a marvelous thing that we've been able to be so successful in maintaining the CSP, and it's only because of the people that donate to the program that have kept that going for all this time. So if that's you, thank you so much. And
you're saving a lot of lives.
Everybody that helps us has done a hell of a lot of good, man, in so much ways. Mm-hmm. We feel it here. We know it here. We've talked about it before, you know, the good that we're doing, how we're helping people sleep, how we're helping people with so many other things. We're going to have the tubes and dubs coming up again in Christmas.
Yep.
We're giving out socks here leading up to that as well.
Paid for already. So.
Yeah, and we've got some here that we're giving out in the meantime. We're not waiting for that date. That we've got some socks, not the ones that are for tubes and dubs. We've got some other ones that we're giving out here as well.
Yeah.
So
we will have 320 pairs from Cabela's to give out.
Nice.
So that's a
We've
lot.
got a dozen umbrellas there that was used with the money that was donated to the CSP. That as soon as it starts raining hard again, we're going to give those out.
Give us some umbrellas.
And,
that's good.
Yeah, so things are going well there. The other CSPs are doing well, but they all need donations too. There's a good group in Halifax, Chris Backer with the East Coast CSP. You want some of that, by the way?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm just... Chris is for over 2 years, been running a line up there once a week in Halifax, and doing just a great job of helping people. And I'm sure he's got all kinds of stories he could tell you as well. I think we should have him on the show one of these days and do that. And William Hicks is still operating in London, Ontario, the Cannabis Substitution Program there that was started by Mary McCarty when she left here as our head baker and went there and took the program and got it going. And William's been running that program, and I know he needs donations as well. It's not easy. The donators that have helped us have made it look a little easy, I think, here in Vancouver. It must be way harder in other parts of the country to be able to get donations and maintain a program of giving it away the way that we do here.
We could bring Chris in on my phone.
Yeah, we should do that.
You won't see him unless you're looking at this screen, but you'll be able to hear him, and everybody else will be able to hear him too. We got to put him on a split screen, like when you're.
Well, he's too good. He's too good looking to only have on audio. Can we not find a way to have him on screen?
Well, everybody else will see him.
Oh, okay. That's all that matters.
Yeah, they'll see him.
I've seen him enough myself.
Yeah, everybody else will see him because he'll be part of the split screen, right?
Yes, that's
you
what we want to do.
You won't be able to see him, but you'll be able to hear him.
Great.
Right? So we could do that. We just have to make a time.
Glenn knows this because he's the one producing the show at this point. And Neil went to India to learn a bunch of things that he couldn't learn here, apparently.
Yeah.
One of the things he learned upon arrival is that your luggage doesn't always show up. So he wanted to live a bit of a minimalist life
so they
there
helped
in
him out
India.
with that,
So the universe,
helped him out.
agreed with that as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure he, within a few hours, was in a brand new sari or whatever it is that you wear there in India.
Wow! Hey, wow! Poor guy.
And we wish him all the best for sure.
We sure do.
We miss him, but we don't miss a beat when he's gone because Glenn's able to make it all work
Keep
for
going,
us. So,
yeah.
man.
We just got to get the upload to YouTube. That's all.
Oh yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
No. You have to give them the
That's what I was
information.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we could always put it on my YouTube page.
Sure.
I could.
do that.
Once I get my laptop back, we'll start doing that. We can put it on the other
You
channel.
put last week's on too.
I'll be able to do all the ones that we have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I just
will
have to
have
download it onto my laptop.
will have a
and then
YouTube
upload
presence.
it. Yeah. So we will get there.
Okay.
And people just have to look through the title and not through the page. That's all. Right.
I hear that you can get weed delivered by Uber in Toronto now.
I know. I showed you that. Eh?
Yeah, that's going to be a global thing for Uber.
Well, you
there.
can get booze delivered here. That's legal. So I can see them going into a legal store, and having weed delivered.
I mean, with weed being
It's
designated
all
as
run by the liquor stores, the boards, anyways. Right? Ontario is the same as BC. It's the Ontario Cannabis and Liquor Board, and here it's the BC Cannabis and Liquor Board. So.
And it was deemed an essential service.
Yeah, alcohol and cannabis.
So how can Uber deny delivering what is essential for people?
But if you're,
we laugh because of the world we've come out of with prohibition.
I bought your stuff, but
Yeah.
I got a bag here. I got some here.
Yeah. Or the Uber driver coming, how dank your package smells. I'm sure that all of that's going to be going on as things move into the mainstream. But before we settle for the mainstream, let's make sure that there's low barrier access as well.
Yep.
That for those that want to bring cannabis to the marketplace in ways that are more affordable to people that need it, and of course the courts have now struck down the cap on potency for edibles, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the Martin and Warnicki and Seaman case there. that's been recently judged upon, where it was deemed that several portions of the ACMPR, and that extracts over to the Cannabis Act as well, right? That they are of no force and effect at this point, and that would be the cap on potency.
Yep.
And the lack of having storefront access.
Yep.
So those are two very interesting rulings that do make a lot of sense. You know, maybe eventually sanity will rule out over greed and corruption and lies that make all that system work, and maybe we will get some sanity happening. And so, yeah, that's another really good ruling. We've had a number of really good rulings. The Howell case as well. There was a lot in there about people's need to be able to access reasonably. And I gotta say, when you're talking accessing reasonably, that's also affordably. And when you're talking about a plant that could be produced under similar circumstances to what other crops are produced by farmers, it could be brought to market in that way, and it needs to be able to happen that way. To try to protect the high cost cannabis and all of that is just wrong.
It's totally
it's just wrong. It's just wrong. So that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
All right. So
Well,
I guess
see
we're
you
going to
next
talk
week.
to my other friend over
Yeah,
here who's
yeah.
been waiting patiently.
He's a
We didn't
guest.
announce him as a guest, but
Yeah.
he needs
Well,
no introduction.
He wasn't in the
as
title,
you'll-
but people know who he is.
Well, that's what I mean. He needs no introduction. He's able to come on, spontaneously,
Yes.
because he's always on his own time, which is Indigenous time, and that means that
I'll give
you
him
know,
the chair. We'll see you next week.
give him the chair. So,
All right, there
of
you
course,
go.
those of you who watch the show
Already
regularly,
warm,
you'll know that
sure.
we're talking about the Landlord.
Yeah.
And
Already
he's
warm
been a
for
regular
you.
guest, probably one of the most regular guests on the show, and that's for good reason, because he's always doing a lot of good things in the community. He's one of the most respected elders here, and he's always got his finger on the pulse of what's going on with respect to the policies of government and these sorts of things. So good to see you, my friend.
Got my green lighter, I got my green joint.
Nice. I got the blue lighter and the green joint.
Yeah,
So,
it's always good to see Glenn. He's a good man. I don't know what he's good for.
I don't know what
but
I'd
he's
do without
good-
him.
He's good for something.
Thank you, sir.
well, he's at least 8 out of 10 anyway.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
definitely.
I just came back from my mom's funeral in Calgary, and who drove me home?
Yes.
Glenn.
Is that right?
The new Canna Uber
Canna Uber.
driver. Yeah, man.
Got him from Abbotsford to the city and
From
it's
Abbotsford back
45
in
minutes.
less than 40 minutes. Yeah, man. It was an environmental friendly, weed friendly vehicle.
So you were there to lay your mom to rest. How old was she?
She was 94. I was
Wow,
off
good
with
for
you.
her. And I've only ever heard good things about her myself.
She near the end she was using some CBD. It helped her a bit.
You mean vitamin C, vitamin
The
B, vitamin
CBD,
B,
cream for her arthritis and pain. And
Right.
she took some CBD pills for her dementia, and it helped. It brought me to tears. I called her, right, because I haven't seen her for a while. And usually people who have dementia don't remember much. I call you, an hour later they'll forget.
Yep.
But Mom was taken. I told him, I said, you know what? And my family always frowned on it, marijuana, but they didn't know that CBD helped with the dementia. So what shocked my sisters in Calgary, I have a lot of sisters, 14 adopted sisters, but they gave her the CBD. When I called, and she like slouched down, and but when I called her, she perked up. She heard my voice. Mom never forgets her son's voice. And
Right.
this is an adopted mom since I was about 18,
Right.
out of foster homes.
She had lots of kids like you. That
No,
she
she
helped,
just had many people come to her house, but everyone who stayed in their bedroom downstairs, the guest room, would get married, but it never worked for me. I was that Indian, always on the powwow trail. You too, I still haven't found, I'm looking for. So I've traveled North America, 48 states, but we gave her CBD, and she recognized me just a week before she passed. She says, Stephen, that's my name, Stephen, but they call me Landlord or Grand Marshal. She says,
You
Stephen,
got to write Stephen on the checks.
I love you, my son, my adopted son. And my two sisters were like appalled, like, wow, she remembered.
Right.
So yeah, then they sent me a plane ticket for the funeral a week later. So.
Well, I'm glad you got to go to that anyway.
Yeah, well, I still got one more mom and two dads because I was raised Mennonite, but I wouldn't live the Bible. I just go live it. So some of it, like in the last 40 years, I've taken 30 strangers home.
I see.
You know, and they're on hard drugs like heroin and harder drugs. And, you know, the first guy I helped out, I was only 18, and he was 14 years older than me. He was like 32.
You were an elder before your time.
And I helped him get off heroin, and today he's a male nurse at the Surrey Hospital. He's retiring this month.
Right on.
So we're going to go up for spaghetti dinner before he wants to go to Spain. But
Right.
it was 40 years ago I helped him off the streets, and I've taken 30 strangers home. You know, the last one is Edward, my adopted son. He rolls for you. But
and you've been looking after him for how
over
long?
4 years now.
4 years coming
Yeah,
up.
and
And we've noticed such a change in him.
You know, he was doing heroin too, and he was drinking, but he doesn't do that no more. So he's had a rough life. We've all had a rough life in different walks of life. But still, to encourage one another, to help one another, what the government doesn't want to do, they don't want to help you because they're going to lose money. The bottom line, the government doesn't care about us because they'd lose money. If I gave the world some knick-knack today, a herbal medicine for asthma, they lose money on the blue and orange puffers. That's why they don't want it. So we have this flower that's legal, but still the police harass us. And the government, the little puppeteers wannabe, you know, wake them up, right to your parliament or whatever.
This dangerous stuff here.
No, that's so dangerous, man.
That's so dangerous.
I've been hanging out with Mary Jane. I'm on my 47th year with her and I. Without
50
her,
for me.
well, you got me beat. Yeah,
50.
you're a bit older though, right? You're a couple years older.
Yeah.
You fart dust yet? No, I'm just kidding.
Just
Sorry.
about going to be 66 coming up.
66.
Crazy, can't imagine.
No. But weed has helped in many different ways. Marijuana, or you know. And my mom,
Really
the
has.
bottom line is my mom remembered my voice. And I haven't seen her for 5 to 7 years. But, you know, before she passed away, we got to talk on FaceCam.
Right.
And she told me she loved me and that I give her permission to go see the light now, the great spirit in the sky, you know. She's lived a long life on this earth and she's done very well. And I got spoiled many times, home-cooked meals. You'd be crazy in Calgary. Sorry, I'm still for the Canucks fan, though, but yeah.
We won't talk about the Canucks.
Yeah, I know.
We could talk about the BC Lions if we
The BC Lions. Well, back
Wow.
in 1974, my grade 5 school teacher was a BC Lions. Gary Robinson. He played for BC Lions, and when he wasn't playing, he was our school teacher in Westminster. That's Sir Richard McBride, but apparently
Nice.
they found out he's not a sir, so they took it out. Now it's just McBride Elementary School.
Well, BC's into the Final Four.
Final Four.
Final
Yeah.
Four of the CFL. They're going to go play Winnipeg on Sunday, and we got Toronto
Winnipeg.
playing Montreal for the first time in 10 years. And then the winner of those two games will play for the Cup.
I'd like to see BC and Montreal, East meets West.
Sure.
Why not? Forget about Winnipeg and who's the other one? Toronto?
Toronto.
No, they don't need
Well,
to.
Winnipeg, they're the class of the league, apparently. And they're the ones to beat.
Winnipeg. I've been there. I was cold.
Well, they're used to playing in the cold, so it's going to be cold there, too.
It is getting cold out there.
it
This is
is.
my first year I wear
Yeah.
clothing. I've always wore t-shirt and shorts all my life.
Must be hard to play football under all that pressure in a cold environment like that. I can't imagine.
Oh, she's cold in Winnipeg. Oh, yeah. I mean,
But you know, we do talk sports every once in a while on the show here, but really with the BC Lions, they've had an amazing year because they had this rookie quarterback come in who is probably going to win the most valuable player of the regular season, even though he missed half of the regular season because he got injured. So he came back in time to play 1/4 of the last regular season game, and now he's just played this playoff game against Calgary, and he looks like his regular self for the most part, although you can see he's still hurting a little bit. But it's very, very exciting. But for me, more exciting than that is that we've had the BC Lions on 2 occasions now come right here to Main and Hastings and serve food to people as part of that, what's the name of that? Heart Eye Tattoo Society.
Yeah, that's Evan and Mackenzie.
With Evan and Mackenzie.
I blessed their house. I smudged and prayed for their house years ago.
They got their start with us at the CSP. Mackenzie would bring stuff that Evan had prepared for us at the Van Du when we were there on Thursday afternoons. And then they got bigger and bigger than that, and then they ended up getting a government grant. And so now they're quite a large food distribution company, all for free. They just set up on Thursdays right here, and so twice the BC Lions sent down several of their players to take part in that, including Brian Burnham, who's one of their star receivers, who had a huge impact on the game here just the other night with an amazing touchdown that he somehow twisted his body around like he does, like so few other players seem to. I mean, holy smokes, can that guy ever twist to catch a ball and never let go? And so it's really, really fun to watch all of this. For people in Canada, we got nothing but for those who aren't for you people in the States, you understand there's nothing going on in Canada here. We just got snow all the time, and we have to hide in our igloos, but we do have television and we do play football the way it's meant to be played. And so it is exciting for a lot of Canadians, this particular tournament. And for those who are not excited about that because you're so depressed about the drug war, I don't blame you a bit. And maybe it is or maybe it isn't a good idea to get distracted by these entertainment things that are given to us to keep our minds off of all the suffering that happens because of government policy to support the rich. But
I call it Snowvember. It's November now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're not getting out of November without some snow, I'm real sure here. Where it doesn't snow all the time in Vancouver, but it seems like
this year
I think we're gonna get some snow down here.
I've never been a farmer, but their almanac is 9 out of 10 pretty accurate.
Is
it?
Yeah. So 9 out of 10 pretty. Does that mean a little less than 9 out of 10 if it's 9 out of 10
9
pretty?
out of 10 agree that the farmer's almanac is pretty good. And
all
these
right.
people don't know each other. So I hear people talking about it. I will go around the hood. I've been meeting more people selling marijuana, like I was hearing you talking to Glenn earlier about people selling in the park. Wow, I'm touching base with more people. They even giving me infused popcorn. I love that. Oh, nice. Infused popcorn I got from a lady today.
So there is actually, I believe, I haven't made the walk, but there is actually quite a few people selling cannabis just on the streets around here.
The streets,
because the Blue Door closed down, primarily.
Yeah, I know Neil and Shannon for years. They used to bring me weed. Say, come check out our dispensary back in the day, and I never did. For 3 months, I thought, no, and I finally went and saw him. I said, why are you coming now? I said, well, you've been bringing me bags of weed every day for free. Why should I come down? But anyways, since the Blue Door, here and there, little tents pop up down by Abbott Street. I went to Thornton Park and different places. I've seen people starting to sell. I just met this new group a couple weeks ago, East Van, and they're selling weed and marijuana, or the flower, you usually wouldn't want to call it, the old timers, and then they got some nice edibles and
nice
soap bombs too, CBD soap bombs you can put in the bathtub and that. But this is from East Van, and the lady just lives 2 blocks from me. And helping Sarah with a project downtown to sign people, trying to get this flower out on the streets more. Like I said, it's sad to see not just the indigenous, but many people on the streets I meet every day. And lately I've been rolling some roach joints or some, and I go out and I might give some out. Since the guy's really hurting, here you go, have a joint, buddy.
Yeah.
And you'll feel better after this joint, at least. It'll calm your nerves, if you're in anxiety, or just, So, the government, what they can't do, I'm coming in to step in now, So.
People look after people. That's how it's always been.
We get that one deal.
Unfortunately, we have to look after people because the government won't. Or even because the government's hurting them. It's crazy. But here we are.
I usually last little while. I've been taking out 10 joints a day, and just
nice.
I might see someone that, are you hurting? Do you need a joint? Because our government can't do so. I'm trying to help our people on the streets down here. It's not easy. So again, like you name those people, thank you for your work and your baking and your contribution and your donation and your time and effort to all these muffins and cookies. And yes, Mary, I miss you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Rice Krispie Squares Send me some. But no, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
I still got, I think.
Yeah.
Unless they all went out today, we did have a dozen or so left of those.
I miss Mary, but yeah. And
Well, just keep trying. Your aim will get better.
It's good to see John here when he brings the cookies in. And, all you guys doing these outreaches, I don't know how many people are watching this again, but I always say, hey, why don't you share this with someone and get them to share it? So we can get this out like a virus. So the government knows that we're not going to give up. Neil hasn't given up. He keeps persevering time and time again, and this is probably episode 170 or something right now. I don't know.
Pretty close to that, yeah.
163.
163
Wow.
times he sat on this air, And,
I've been telling the same story for 163 episodes,
163
hoping that,
episodes.
Eventually we'll get to that cliffhanger and we'll get the answer we're looking for, and it'll all be a
200
happy ending for
and
everybody.
We'll be celebrating, right? So,
Isn't that how it has to end?
Oh.
Because it's not going to end until it ends that way. That's what kind of the bottom line
we
is.
can have it with you
But at
people
some
watching
point,
it today. I'm just serious. You can share it with your friends and let's say, hey, go watch this on Pot TV and share it. It's very,
It's big news.
It would be.
It's big news, and the mainstream media isn't talking about it because they're profiting off the whole situation as
like
well.
pay it forward. Come on, spread it out there, people. You have the technology, you have the will right in front of you on your cell to just click and share. That'd be good for Neil and good for Glenn and good for me. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah.
Well, if it's good for me and Glenn, it's got to be good for you.
Yeah.
But it was a good year.
But it'd be good for a lot of people, and that's the thing here. We're living in extremely dangerous times, I guess.
Things are Pilgrim.
Well, all of us.
I'm just kidding.
I think it's dangerous for everybody, on planet Earth here. It's a very fragile existence. But the way that our society has evolved, and with the corporate influence and the political structures that have, gone to the way that they have, these are times when we've got to do something. We've got to make some changes now, because the technologies that are out there, if we don't get some sort of an entrenched definition of what freedom is, and that the role of government is to protect that freedom, then I think that we're going to continue to be exploited, and our rights and our freedoms are going to be continued to be taken away under the guise of security and protecting us or whatever it is. We really need to establish some limits on what our public servants are able to do with respect to how they interfere with our lives and what their role is, and define them as an entity that is there to protect all of the citizens from that corporate business agenda of exploitation and maximizing profits and all of those sorts of things. We need limited government in their abilities to do, so that they could never do anything like tell a free person that you can't roll up some dried flowers and light them on fire and inhale them if you want. Oh my goodness. If there's something really dangerous going on about people doing that, then yeah, the government should let people know about it, but they shouldn't put them in jail for it, because nobody wants to really harm themselves by, smoking the wrong flowers or whatever. But, this is all just ludicrous nonsense that if we continue to allow to happen, if we settle for a legalization that includes prohibitions and restrictions that are still, the way it always was for anybody that's not part of the cartel or willing to go into a government store, then we're going to have a future where our rights and freedoms are really at risk. Because, I continue to say that if they can get away with prohibiting and over-regulating and restricting access to cannabis to free people, then they're going to be able to get away with the whole lot worse stuff, and they will, and they are. So I think we're at a real interesting time in history where we need to establish some basic foundations of what it is to be free people, and what it is that the role of a bunch of public servants would be doing for free people, and reset some of those limits, make them transparent in the way that they do things, so that it's not easy for them to get away with what they're now able to do behind closed doors and with lobbyists and all the rest that goes on that we're not aware of because they don't want us to be aware of it. If they had real serious transparency going on with respect to what every minister and lower people are doing, it's not hard to do that. We can talk about that on another show. Maybe I have in the past. And if we made them accountable for any things that they were doing that really did violate these new ways of looking at what it is that a public servant is supposed to do, that if there was some serious accountability, where I'm sorry to ramble on, but just let me do this. Those scales of justice that were part of common law understandings of how you determine what justice is, where on one side of the set of scales you have all of the damage that you can prove that was done, and then on the other side of the set of scales you've got whatever penalty you're going to apply to try to balance the scales of justice. That's what it's all about. Well, in the case of a public servant who is having all of that influence with the ability of a signature on a piece of paper to be able to change laws or enact laws that are definite infringements on our rights and freedoms, and how many people are hurt when that happens, and so how much damage is caused by a public servant that is corrupt, that decides that because he's going to pocket some money or he's going to get some advantage in the future, or for whatever reason, maybe he's being threatened, not bribed, who knows. But if that happens, that there should be some serious accountability for the amount of damage that's done to the perhaps millions of people that are affected by some ridiculous law, for example, about making a very popular and beneficial plant illegal that would definitely drive up the use of it, and then therefore in the end cause all of this incalculable damage that's happened. And just how much damage have those public servants done in trying to protect the interests of their corporate friends who want that power through government and have taken advantage of their ability to do that, and just how much damage are they responsible for? Where is the set of scales that needs to be balanced with respect to penalties that would be of some justice? Because we should have justice when you've been harmed in some serious way. Isn't that what we want, is justice? And if you want the scales of justice to balance, then that means some pretty serious penalties for some people that have done some pretty bad things just to try to make some money for their friends over the last little while here. And there probably needs to be an inquiry about that, as we've been talking about since the beginning of the show, and and somehow get to the other side of this, and at least, if not inquire, find out, and punish those who are responsible to some degree for the enormous amount of damage that we can't even calculate. If we don't even want to go there, well, let's just figure out a way to end it and not do any more of it, and stop these ridiculous restrictions and prohibitions and enforcements with respect to people trying to access a plant or get people access to a plant. It has become a farce for far too long that has done too much harm.
Look at the plant represented today. The poppy were the natives.
Yeah.
It was native. I didn't have one. For indigenous people, those are the natives who spoke.
So this was Indigenous Remembrance Day, was it not?
Today was Indigenous Remembrance Day.
And there was some sort of a march?
There was a march from Main Street in Hastings in Vancouver all the way up to the Victory Square by Cambie.
Right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean to an Indigenous person? And because I know that there was a lot of people that stepped up and fought for Canada from the Indigenous communities.
Some were fought, but some were, just like in the States, were translators, right? You got to think of that back in the day. So when the enemy, the natives would speak the language to translate, and the enemy wouldn't understand.
Right.
So
it's a day to honor those that
fought for their country also.
Right.
For
you and me and the people that have come after them.
I took my hat off to them. I didn't wear a hat today, but thinking of them.
Right on.
Who passed away to save our lives or our country.
Yeah. We talked a little bit on the show. I'm not sure if you were in the studio. We call it the studio now. At that time, about what it must have been like for a young person to be deciding that he's going to go do what he can to keep his family from whatever it is that's threatening, the country, and what it must be like to know that. I mean, you'd be thinking about that. That what are you going into? You're going into people going to shoot at you. You're going into places where bombs are going to blow up, and all the rest of the stuff is right there. That you're heading into.
I know some of it because I was a medical person out of New York. I went to school in Hawaii for that, but I was a special United Nations person too in '92 to be a peacekeeper. I was in Los Angeles during the Rodney King riots trying to bring peace. And at that time, I was probably about 375 pounds back in '92. And at first they thought I was Hispanic, but they found out I was a North American Native Indian from Canada, and nobody messed with me. Because they put Canadian flags on my blue security vest. And
I see.
Had the United Nations in the back, and it said North America Native Indian, and it had Canada on each side, so nobody messed with me.
I see.
So I was going to just.
But it wouldn't have been
bring
wise for them to mess with you anyway.
Yeah, I was just bringing peace, you know.
You don't muck with the Bear Clan, I'll tell you.
No, how do you know? Oh yeah, you know.
Okay, I think I've known you for a while.
But no, I just wanted to bring peace to all. I know what hate was like before I was 18.
Right.
Before I was 18, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I'd be sitting here trying to figure out how could I beat this guy up. But you know, I really didn't like the white man.
Right.
But after 18, things have changed in my own personal life. So I put all nations equal, except for Glenn's tribe, the Wells. They're a different tribe altogether. Okay, the Wells.
Technical difficulties.
All nations are equal in having some good men and some bad men.
Yeah, except for the Wells tribe. You know,
Yeah.
I know.
They're all 8 out of 10, and that.
They're way more 8 out of 10. They're
8 out of 10's not bad.
Okay, is it?
Yeah,
good.
that's pretty good.
It's good, man. You got 8 out of 10. You're doing pretty good.
I know.
This whole human condition here, universal condition of
But
life.
bringing peace in '92 was quite the thing in Los Angeles. I can bring you some clips one day soon and show you the riots in '92. They're just fighting over, again, the police messed up. This is it. The police are always messing up. The RCMP, they're not respected by the natives, right?
There's some bad apples in there, and
Any police
some bad
force around the
corporate
world,
policies in there.
Too many puppets,
Yeah.
too many strong. Oh, I'm a wild west. I got a gun, so now I can do what I want.
Well, there again, there are people that are asked to enforce unjust laws. And there's not, bad things happen when that happens. People
Yeah,
become
we do.
bad people. The corruption that's involved with our policing because of prohibition, the temptations that are there, the threats that are there, the opportunities, the disrespect that happens to police because, the kids in the neighborhood know that those police are a threat. They're not a help. That's no way to have a society.
Well, they have their power trip, but you got to realize the Mounties get transferred every 2 years anywhere around Canada. And then,
Don't get me wrong, there's some, small communities that have probably decent policing.
actually, there was one time.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
It was winter time in Regina, and I was hitchhiking. A Mountie picked me up, gave me $300 cash and a Greyhound ticket to Vancouver. That scared me at first. But yeah, no.
My dad, tells me that he would like to have been a police officer, but when he applied, it wasn't going to happen because of his height. He was fairly small, short in stature, vertically challenged, I think is what they say now to be politically correct. But back then in the force, it was enough to keep him out. But he had those sort of aspirations. I too grew up wanting to or respecting the good guy. The enforcement of the police or whatever, if they're after a bad guy, if you frame it properly, this is a bad person, just did a bad thing. Here comes the police officer, the detective, the superhero, whoever it is, and he's going to set it right and probably hurt the bad guy a little bit and, the champion of justice. And so, I had some admiration for that. My dad probably instilled, some of that in me. And so that I wanted to respect the police. And I think that a lot of people who become police are people who, that when they were kids, they played that they were the good guy. They were the guy coming in and beating up the bully and saving the old woman from getting her purse stolen or whatever it was. And that these are good people that wanted to be good people. I'm sure there's some bad apples there that are just bullies and they think that being a policeman gives them a good opportunity to bully people or they, whatever. I know there's bad apples these days. But I initially think that a guy that wants to be a police officer probably wants to be a good guy. But then they find themselves in a job where, you got to go out and interfere with people that are smoking the wrong stuff, or are doing things that really aren't anything, that are going to cause anybody serious harm. But here you are, you're going to cause them some serious harm. And mostly we're talking about cannabis prohibition.
Well, forget Glenn. You could be the Lone Ranger. I'll be Tonto.
I would have thought would want to be Lone Ranger these days.
Oh yeah.
There's got to be a whole reversal of everything these days, isn't there?
And since Neil has white hair, he can be the horse.
There you
I
go.
get- well, sometimes I'm a little hoarse.
Oh, you could be Mr. Ed. Well, it's good to be here with you, Neil.
It is.
And again,
I see you're still
keep
working
up
on
the
some
good
more
work.
material for your next, stage appearance with Mike Rita. I know he's been working real hard to come up with enough material
Yeah,
to try
you
to
wait,
counter.
Mike. I got some new ones already.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's feeling the pressure.
I'm feeling it now.
I'm sure he's working on something to counter back with. And,
Your rent's due, motherfucker. Even if you're across
Speaking of
Canada.
Mike, Rita did a great job at the Mom Cup and
Yeah,
did a
that
great
was
job
fun.
here in Vancouver at one of the local venues with the Portuguese kids and had us all pretty much in Portuguese stitches all night. And went on to, the last thing I heard, he was in Laval, Quebec at one of the 5 top venues in Canada. And just killing it there. And I saw a picture from the back of the stage looking out, and man, that looks like a grand place to be performing as well. But he is such a funny man, and you really put him in his place. I thought, Mike, you got to up your game a little bit, buddy. But
I got some new ones already, buddy. I remember when next time our cross pass.
and if you have a chance, if Mike Rita and the Portuguese kids are coming to your town, make sure you go and check that out. You will not have any choice but to have a funny night.
All right.
all
Thanks,
right.
brother from another mother.
See you, my friend.
Well, your rent's due too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, what's it all about then? We've been just trying to get sense and reason in this world. When I say we, I mean myself and those other cannabis rights activists. I think I'm a freedom activist. That's at the root of what I'm trying to do here. But the whole cannabis file has become a little bit all-encompassing in that pursuit because it has so many facets, and it is so much at the core of the fight for freedom. And so that we've come an interesting journey to get to where we are here. We had the Liberal government run on a platform of legalization from a position of below opposition status and rose to a majority government on that platform. And during that campaign, Mr. Trudeau himself said that the medical people that need, or the people that need cannabis for medical purposes would not have any problems during his legalization, that the access would be easy, and numerous other things. He talked about how he would take out the underground marketplace because the cannabis would be so inexpensive that nobody would be going anywhere but to a store where you could walk in there and purchase it cheaper than you could get anywhere else, and it would be really good cannabis. And that's the way you actually take out an underground marketplace if you don't want that underground marketplace, because there's something dangerous or bad about it, right? But that's what he said, even though there's really nothing dangerous or bad about most of what's going on in the underground marketplace of cannabis distribution that's not part of the legalization scheme. But I must say that there are problems inherent with that system for sure, and that people would just like to be legal and not feel the risk of arrest and all those other things, or the risk of invasions and grow rips and the other things that do happen in the illegal marketplace because of prohibition. So that we've gotten to a point where the government had to legalize, and that was just all there was to it. And the Liberal Party understood that. That's why they put together a platform of legalization, and that's why they won a majority government in doing that. And then they roll out legalization, and it's really not anything like Mr. Trudeau said that it would be, although it was, to be fair to Freddie Pritchard especially. It was there on the Liberal website, these words and sentences about highly restricting cannabis and protecting the young people, and some other language in there that told Freddie, and he was trying to tell all of us, and rightfully so, that the Liberal version of legalization wasn't going to be quite what we were looking for. What we were looking for was something similar to what we were putting together at our 420 rallies here in Vancouver, with a completely free, open marketplace of people just doing whatever they want to do in helping people get access to cannabis, and those that want to purchase their products purchase them, and those that don't. And it was no harm, no foul anywhere going on. It was just a beautiful demonstration of what the cannabis marketplace should look like. And the Liberal version of legalization looks nothing like that at all. It is soulless. it is corporate, it is expensive, it is restrictive, it is stigmatizing to those people that want to use cannabis still, and it is still criminal in its enforcement of the laws with respect to those people that are outside of the cartel. You know, all those people that were growing and selling cannabis before Trudeau's legalization that are now all of a sudden criminals with legalization, and they're supposed to stop because of legalization, but they were criminals before legalization, and nothing has really changed for them. And they've still got their customers, and they've still got their cash flow, and they still have their needs financially. And so they're going to continue to grow, and they're going to continue to distribute, because that's just what you would do in that particular circumstance. You probably have little choice but to do that. So this legalization that we have here excludes the poor people and excludes the people that need it for medical purposes, because that's almost always in the form of edibles and high-dose edibles, and that's not available through the government structure. And so, on top of all of that, legalization happens. That's the way legalization is. And because of other facets of drug prohibition, we have an epidemic of people dying of overdose because of a poisoned street drug supply of opiates and other substances. So the universe all comes together, doesn't it? And so at that moment where here we have legalization that isn't the legalization that we've been looking for, and it's going to be disastrous for the medical users, and at the same time a situation where there's an epidemic of overdose deaths because of a poison drug supply. And of course, cannabis is the best answer to that overdose epidemic. Because the biggest reason there's the overdose epidemic is because people can't stop using it. When people start dying around you because they're using the substance you're using, you would quit doing that if you could. And many people are desperate to quit what they're doing, but they can't. They're stuck. They have very few options but that which they've been doing to this point, to get it from the street. They try to stop, they go into hell. They stop going through hell because that's what you have to do when you're going through hell, and you're not able, and you don't have any water with you, or you don't have anything else to comfort you on the journey, and they don't make it through. Time and time again they try because they're desperate. They're willing to try time and time again and go back to hell and maybe make it through time and time again. But they can't. But they can when they use high-dose edibles. Cannabis edibles is the answer for most people. Most of the people for whom it's not the right answer are the ones who tried it, but they used too much and they didn't get a good experience and they don't even want to try it again. And that's their barrier now. But really, for just about everybody, at the right dose, cannabis high-dose edibles is an assistant to getting through withdrawal that is crucial in making that journey. And has been what was successfully used by people time and time again. Hundreds of people that are just in our group here on the downtown east side of Vancouver have successfully used high-dose edibles to get through withdrawal and get off of those drugs. But here we are, with a government that legalizes cannabis, an epidemic of overdose deaths, and cannabis in a form different than the way they've legalized it is the answer. And will they or will they not capitulate and allow for the poor and the addicted to have easy access to cannabis, especially high-dose edibles, to get them through the withdrawal? So far, the answer is no. Over 5.5 years of demonstrating that that is the right answer, and this does work, and we are still waiting, hoping that the government will eventually do the right thing and allow for low barrier access to cannabis. Not just for the opioid crisis, but for people in general. Because why would a government have anything to do with interfering with the public's ability to access a medicinal, natural plant without barriers? Why would a government want barriers? Why would they put up barriers? To protect the corporate elite. And there you go. So anyway, we started the Cannabis Substitution Program just to demonstrate that that was the case. That cannabis high-dose edibles gets people through withdrawal and helps them with replacing the use of those other drugs. We started the CSP almost 6 years ago. We started it, just a brief summary for anybody who doesn't watch the show regularly. I'm hoping that there's always new people watching, but in every show I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about here. We're in the downtown east side of Vancouver. We started a program of handing out high-dose cannabis edibles, even though that was illegal to do. But before we started, we got the full support of the advocacy group, Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, funded by Coastal Health, that helps the people that are oppressed by the drug war and suffering the ills of addiction and poverty. They gave us full unanimous support. We went to City Council to try to get their support. We presented to the Vancouver Police Board about what we were going to do. We waited 2 months to try to get City Council on board, and during that time collected enough donations from the good dispensary owners in town and other people that wanted to help that we started handing it out. For a year, we handed it out once a week, every Saturday, to hundreds of people that would line up and get a care pack of 4 to 6 edibles and a couple of joints. For the next 2.5 years, we gave it out twice a week, a similar amount every time. We did, after 2.5 years of the program, get City Council to pass a bill unanimously, or a motion unanimously, to support low barrier access to cannabis because of what we were doing. We had an agreement with City Council in Vancouver that we would get a store, and then we would get from them a license. And in good faith, we found and opened a store. But they wouldn't give us that piece of paper with a signature until we went to Ottawa and got their permission. So we put together a great application explaining exactly how well this works and why it works, and testimonials from hundreds of people, or at least dozens of people, that we videotaped and sent there, along with the science, along with the peer-reviewed scientific reports that were coming out about how what we were doing was effective. And we demonstrated and we demonstrated and we demonstrated every time that all we were doing was helping people and no one was ever harmed. But federal government has yet to approve our application. Federal government, both the health minister, Patty Haydu at the time, and Mr. Benoit Seguin at Health Canada, were presented at the same time as our application, an application to give us an emergency temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act so that we could do what we were doing and continue to do the good work that we were doing without having to risk arrest and the rest of it. But they didn't respond to that, other than to tell us that they had received it and they would respond. In fact, Health Canada told us a few months after our application that they were sorry it had taken so long at that point, and that they were working on it, and it would probably be early January 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this coming January. Maybe that was the January they meant. But here we are, still providing our service, because of course we can't stop. Couldn't stop. Who could stop? How could we stop? How can they expect us to stop? How can they expect us to just all of a sudden, just not show up one day? I bet you, one of us or two of us would be hanging around, half a block away, peering up the street just to see what was going on. And what we would see, if we were there, if we were a fly on the wall, say, or if we were a crow on the wire, what we would see is person after person after person showing up, discovering the van was gone, that we weren't there, and giving some sort of a horrified look or comment about, oh my God, now what are we going to do? So anyway, probably that's enough. That's what we're doing. That's what we've been doing. That's what we're going to keep doing. We're before the courts at this point. We were arrested in May, charged with providing cannabis without a license. We think we've had licenses pending because the federal government told us they would have licenses for us in January, early January, coming up 3 years ago. Can it be that long? Must be just 2 years ago. Yeah, it's 2 years ago.
I've been waiting for 8.
Yeah, I know, it's just 2 years.
Is it?
Yeah, it's just 2 years. Because it was 2 years ago in September that we submitted the application, and then 3 months later in December they said early January. So it's 2 years ago. Sorry, 2 years. Don't want to exaggerate. Don't need to exaggerate. 2 years is a hell of a long time. And we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, let's go have a quick look outside, do the Vancouver weather report, and check in on the RV.
All right. Put your hood up. It's cold.
How are you doing? Yeah? Not a very cuddly cat, but he's a wonderful cat. So here we are. It's nighttime now. We've had the clocks go back, and it's pretty dark early here. It was a good day, I guess. Basically sunny, not too windy. Quite cold, but nothing serious that way at all. And otherwise, a pretty good weather day in Vancouver. Let me get ahead of you here. Good.
Documentary.
Live.
Eh?
Live, actually.
Live documentary.
Yeah, live.
Hot.tv.
Eh?
Hot.tv.
Hot.com.
You guys have a good night.
Thank you as well. Here we are at the Ganja Mobile, the CSP Healing Wave hippie van. You know, all these different names. It's become, you know, a real icon in this community here. I think we have squatters' rights now because we've been here for 2 years in the RV waiting for permission from Health Canada, and we're still waiting to see what happens. But in the meantime, like I said, we can't stop helping people because we care about these people. We've known them for years. Many of them, you know, we have new people come every day as well, and that's great. But for us, mostly it's about the people that well, no, it's not. I mean, we care about everybody, and we care about the new people that come as well. That these people, you know, are people that we get to know a little bit, that we get to see a little glimpse into their despair, if you will. That they're so happy when they come here. They're so happy when they realize, you know, what it is that we're doing here. That they can get a free joint, they can get a free muffin, they can access at low cost many things that are out of reach for them and not even available in the government stores. And in the underground marketplace, there is a lot of problems. I mean, in a neighborhood like this, you can imagine that there are people taking advantage of anybody who's the least bit naive or innocent or vulnerable. And so that having a safe place to be able to access is extremely important, and having that access is extremely important. There needs to be this option here. 1 block over from here is Hastings Street. That's Main over there. And all up and down for a while there's tents, and there's like even rally tents set up. There's a rally tent set up on the corner over there that's there 24/7. And 24/7 there's people just sitting under that tent at little tables providing cigarettes and who knows what else, but lots of different things, right? And lots of different things all over there. You walk up and down those streets and you're gonna have people asking you if you want some up or some down or some side or whatever. And that's easily available. In fact, all you would have to think about is the rates of death that are happening across Canada, in not just the downtown east side of Vancouver by any means at all. It's in every community, it's in every demographic, because there's people addicted to these opioids in every walk of life that are now unable to get off of them, can't get through withdrawal, end up eventually coming down to the streets to get what they need because they can't steal them off their family or buy them off their family anymore. The doctors won't give them to them anymore. They just can't get through withdrawal, so they go and find them. They don't tell anybody. Nobody knows. So they're using all by themselves, and these are the people that are dying across Canada. And so that the accessibility of these things, for people to be able to come down and get what they need if they need it, and it's easy to get. Like you walk down the street and you can find whatever it is that you want in the form of hard drugs. They need to have this option of cannabis there, easily available, as easily as possible available. Because cannabis isn't like the other substances out here. Cannabis is a way to health and wellness. Cannabis is a way to get a good night's sleep, to get back your appetite, to get back your feeling of you know, being connected to the nature around us and to this planet and this universe that we're in here. Cannabis does these things for people. Cannabis needs to be available for people. Cannabis is a different path, and that's what we're told by the people that now find it, is that it puts them on a different path. And it's a way better path. And it's a path back to being contributing members of society and to feeling okay about themselves and to being independent people. Happy, independent people. How can the government turn its back on that? Why won't the government acknowledge what we're doing? Why won't they even come and have a look at what we're doing here? Why are they sitting in Ottawa trying to think up ways to say no to us and reasons to say no, instead of trying to find ways to say yes and to say, at least let's give it a try. At least let's use what you're doing for research purposes. Let's gather the stats and the data. Let's get some control groups of people and see what it is that happens if we give them high-dose edibles and whatever else it is. Why aren't the government involved in investigating seriously what we've been presenting and demonstrating is by far the best harm reduction option that there is so far going on during this crisis of overdose deaths? So, a brief chat with some of the members. Oh, how are you doing?
Volunteers.
Hey, how's it going?
That looks a little cozy in there.
Oh yeah, we definitely got some lights going on, and unfortunately our propane tank's already run out, but there's 3 bodies in here, so we keep it nice.
Well, we'll let you keep the window closed. I'm not going to freeze you out. But all right, do you want to go into the back, or who's going to? Dex is coming, or who's going to? Oh yeah, the secret knock.
Hey, how's it going? How's it going, guys?
Just like the guy in the window.
Just the guy in the window.
You look just like the guy in the window.
I am everywhere.
Twins.
All at once.
They're all identical.
I'm member number 420.
Yeah. That'd be nice, eh? Yeah, we only got as far as 250. Now we've upped it to 268. But that's a lot of people for such a small little organization to be able to handle at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So, let us back into our store. Let us have this as an outreach vehicle. Let us perhaps have another location in a neighborhood close to here where it would really help them as well. And we can do a lot more good than we're doing, and we would have a member 420. Yep. Isn't that sad that the government will let us have a member 420? We had over 420 people on a waiting list.
Yes, we do.
So there was a person waiting 420, but anyway. So how are we doing at the CSP?
Oh, we're doing pretty well today, actually. We've got a whole bunch of gummy bears, and one of my favorites today are our new sour keys. They taste exactly like an original sour key, and they no empty aftertaste. I mean, really, really great. They're really good products. We get some excellent people cooking, baking, vaping for us. All of these.
Yeah, I was seeing the gummies you just had there from Green Wilderness. I didn't mention them when I was mentioning because I'm bad that way, and there's lots.
We've got.
But yeah, Green Wilderness, has been helping us for a long, long time. There's the Gorilla Ganja.
Yeah, and that's always a great product as well. Lots of people like those. I mean, we've got our capsules as usual. Just our
Dirty Dave.
capsules.
Thanks, Dirty Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For sure.
And other than that,
Spicoli at Top Shelf. There's a whole bunch. Oh man.
we always hand out a free joint with everybody, with every order, with everybody that comes. We put it into a brown paper bag so it's discreet and people feel that they can come here comfortably and not be judged upon. If they don't want people driving by to see them, they don't have to see them. All they see behind them is a brown paper bag, which is really nice. Because some people do like to just keep their identity, keep their own identity, and so.
Yeah, well, part of low barrier is discretion. For sure, discreet low barrier access for you.
Yeah,
part of it. I'm going to close the door because I can tell the wind is going in there and it is cold. So
it
if you're out of
not
propane,
a warm day.
all right, I'm coming to the front. Gotta get more propane right away.
Yeah. Because we're now going to open up the door.
Now we're
and
going
free
in.
them.
You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
I don't mind either way.
Yeah, it is a bit chilly in here for sure, eh? So, yeah, discreet, low barrier access. I mean, that's part of the whole thing. And that's a very important aspect of it. What we learned when we came here and stopped just doing the giveaways at Van Du, and I guess we had learned this to some degree when we were doing our outreach, where we did set up booths at different rallies and protests where we had low-cost cannabis as well to try to raise money for the CSP. But what we really learned when we came here and went full-time and started having it available at low cost is that there's a whole other segment of of the population that are not going to join a program. They're not going to put their name on a waiting list. They're not going to come to the back door of an RV that's handing out harm reduction supplies because they're ashamed of what they're doing. They don't want anybody to know. They're trying to hide what's going on. And these people need to have access, easy, low barrier, discreet access to high dose edibles and cannabis in some sort of a setting that allows them to just come in, get it, and get out like you would if you were buying condoms. You can walk into a drugstore and, wear a hoodie and a sunglasses if you want, baseball cap, and pull it down and go get yourself a handful of condoms. You can buy maybe like a whole box of sponges. Do they still have sponges? I don't know about that Seinfeld episode. That was pretty funny. But anyway, people need discreet access to things. That's just the way it is. We're human beings. We have our own needs and we have our own right to the privacy to do with all of those things. And discreet, low barrier access to cannabis for those people that need to be able to get off of opioids is a crucial part of what has to be part of the strategy to help people in this healthcare or public health emergency that's going on. So that's what we learned. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're trying so hard to get the government to agree with that and to allow that to be a thing, because it's not just here, it's in communities all across Canada. I've got people talking to me. In fact, there's a small community in British Columbia, in a real remote community, that want to have a cannabis substitution program, and other places like that. Around the world, in fact, there are needs for people to have easy, low barrier access to cannabis. So help us if you can, I guess, is the message. That's kind of what we're trying to do here by telling this story week after week and seeing where it goes, is that we kind of need help, because the media is not really covering this story like it should. It's a huge story, but you don't read much about it unless you're looking for it for the most part. It needs to break one day as a huge story. In the meantime, we can share it amongst ourselves. We can tell it to everybody that we meet. We can be part of the solution, because every letter that's written represents 1,000 people to the people that you're writing it to. They all know that. If somebody takes the time to write a letter, that means there was 1,000 other people that came really close to doing that said they were going to do it, that really meant to do it, but didn't quite get it done, because that's just the way we are as humans. So every phone call, every email, every letter, all makes a huge difference. And we're just looking for critical mass, where enough people send that letter or make that phone call that they decide they have to do something different. And if you're part of that, then that's a great way to feel. If you're not part of that, then, well, you're just like most other people that know the world is not in great shape but don't know what you can do about it. And what I'm offering is a real good way to do something about it. It can provide a lot of positive energy. If you know that you're making a difference or part of building critical mass, and then one day we actually get freedom for this plant and the people that use it, and freedom in general for all of us, with public servants that are limited and accountable and transparent, then, well, I want to be there. I want to be on that side of the winning side of history, and I think we can all get there if we all work towards it. So thanks for watching the show and sharing it and writing the letters and doing the things that you're doing and going to do. And thanks to all the people that help us in all the different ways that they do. Thanks to Pot TV for giving me the platform, for Glenn Wells for helping in the absence of Neil, who may never come back for all we know. He may go on to be a famous guru in India there, and teaching people meditation and what to do when you get your luggage stolen before your trip even starts. In any case, life is short, life is serious. It's far too serious to take too serious. And I recommend you go about your life being kind to yourself, being kind to others, all the time, not random acts of kindness, constant acts of kindness. That's the best way to live. But most important, as always, until I see you next week, have as much fun as you can.